another episode of the Master Student Tutorials. Today we're doing a writing lesson, and because writing and editing is my profession, I'm going to be functioning as the master today. And I have with me Dustin Schellenberg. Hello, Dustin.
Hello, Allison.
And Dustin's going to be my student. He is actually one of my writers for the magazine that I manage, Area of Effect. And so I brought him on here to talk about translating speaking skills to writing, or the challenges that you face when you're coming at writing as primarily a speaker. And because Dustin is a public speaker and a pastor, that's kind of his thing. And then he started, and then he started writing for me, and I made him change some of his mindsets and the way he does things because they weren't working for writing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a few challenges. So challenge number one, audience. A challenge is audience because when you're a speaker, your audience is right there in front of you. You can kind of gauge how they're feeling.
Well, yeah, when I speak, like if I can tell like something I'm talking about, either people are like shaking their heads or they're or they're kind of tuned out, or even if I say one kind of joke and they laugh and another one they don't laugh, then I know like this is the way to lean, in the future.
So you can say like some more jokes like that if they do laugh.
Yeah, like that type of humor will be able to like set something up. So yeah, there's a lot of like audience feedback that I get but I also know my audience.
Uh-huh.
Like when I get up on Sunday morning to preach, I know all the people that are there. Usually, there might be like one or two that I don't, or even a handful. But for the most part, like of that however many people are there, I know 90% of them. I know kind of how they'll hear things, the way they'll receive things. That was different in writing. I didn't know who I was talking to, so I've always approached speaking as I know who I'm talking to. Even if someone were to say, "Hey, can you come like tell this group of people about this thing?" Right? Like even if a small group says like we're going through a study in Matthew, come talk about Matthew. I know who I'm talking to, so I can come in and be like, all right, these are the people I'm talking to. Either it's women, men, children, whatever. I know who I'm talking to. When I started writing, I didn't know who I was talking to, and I couldn't see them even to be like, oh, those people.
Yeah. I think that's often actually one of the biggest things I see with new writers writing for a publication is they don't quite know how to fit their style to our audience. And so I have to kind of like work with them and explain to them who we are trying to reach. So there is a specific audience. It's just a matter of becoming familiar with who they are even though you can't see them. Really good writers will learn to do that quickly and learn about the different publications that they're writing for and the audiences that they're writing for, and it's a tricky thing, and if you don't learn how to do that, you probably won't make it as a writer.
That's fair. We had lots of conversations about that helped a lot. There were probably half a dozen times where we had emails back and forth where you'd send something back and I'm like, I don't understand why you're sending this back to me.
Yeah.
Or what's wrong, and then you saying, well, this is the audience, this is who we're talking to, this is how you got to fit it, and going like, okay. So I actually I had to like picture my audience to go like, so these are the people, and then and then like, okay, so I'll write something and they'll be like, no, this doesn't actually, my audience isn't going to understand this, or my audience isn't going to understand that. Yeah, probably has been one of the biggest things that I've had to work through, going from public speaking to writing. Yeah.
Yes. All right, we're going to move on to challenge number 2, which is the lack of body language and vocal emphasis in writing.
I like that you put up the number 2 for that.
2.
When talking about not being able to do that.
Yeah. Okay, how's that challenging for you? When you're speaking, you can wave your arms around, you can emphasize certain words. Your body language does a lot, I think.
Yeah, I've noticed. I don't move around a lot. I'm not like a run around the stage kind of guy. There's lots of like left and right or back and forth or even just like to emphasize one thing over another, I'll use my hands to shape that, to shape things like coming together or being back and forth or that kind of thing.
Sure.
And I don't say it as much.
So was that a challenge for you moving to writing? You don't have that anymore.
Well, because when I write out a sermon, I still mostly manuscript it. But as I'm going through it, I know like this is how I'm going to emphasize something. So I write bearer because I know like I'm going to convey this piece of information with this action, so I don't have to like flesh it out so much.
Yep. In your first drafts, I noticed you would write a little bit bearer, and then I would miss certain points of what you were trying to say.
Yeah.
Because you just kind of glossed over them, and I'd be like, wait, what? I don't understand what you're saying. And then I would have to get you to go back and clarify a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely came from your speaking background.
Yeah, there's the physicality to speaking that allows you to convey information in all kinds of different ways. And writing, I often forget and then go back and like read it the second time through going, when I read this, can I know it without looking at me, without like picturing pictures in my head? I have to be able to like read this as if I don't know anything.
So that is actually a really good tip right there on how to overcome this challenge. Once you're done your article draft, step away from it, maybe for a day or two if you have time, maybe for an hour if you don't. Come back to it, read it out loud to yourself, and you may notice that certain things don't quite connect, or you need to make some adjustments. That's a really good way to overcome that. As far as the lack of emphasis, basically you just have to overcome that by using your words. Your words are all you have in your writing. There are certain things you can do, like italics or all caps, I guess, for emphasis, depending on the magazine's guidelines.
Yeah.
So you can do a little bit of that. You can do, pauses using punctuation or dashes or commas, or punctuation is your friend, basically. Learn how to use it.
I remember in college writing, hearing that a lot too.
Yep.
And I'm not sure how long it takes to get good at it, but I'm still working on it.
Well, and it's nice to have variation and know how to use things like semicolons that a lot of people don't seem to understand how to use. FYI, it's in place of a period, not a comma. You just use it if you want the two sentences to connect more. It's a little tip on semicolons for you there.
I thought you got to put two semicolons into anything over 500 words, whether you need them or not. You just have to have them.
Just drop them in somewhere,
Yeah. Pick two places, semicolon here, semicolon there.
I also really like the M dash. It's just variation from using a comma, but as you have to be careful not to overuse those things. Just like anything else. Alright, so moving on to challenge number 3! We're gonna talk about style. Style, when you're speaking, it's more, I want to say easier, but I don't want to say that because speaking is really hard for me. Writing is more formal. Speech allows for more mistakes. Like you can kind of fumble over grammar or repeat things or go back when you're talking and people will forgive that.
Okay, yeah.
And you can't do that in writing because people will not forgive it.
Yeah. Style-wise, I found I can. Well, I have a cadence. I have a way of delivering things that allows me to like emphasize at different places and speak different ways. Or even like if I make a mistake, I can like laugh at myself and get people to laugh about it too, and then it becomes like not a negative. I've done a few times where I've just like shaken my head and been like, I can't believe I just said that. And everybody laughs, and it's funny, and it like relieves the tension or the awkwardness. Oh. And then you go right back in. I don't think I've ever seen that happen in writing. I've seen people crucified for grammar mistakes.
Oh yeah, if you make a mistake in your writing, wow. And especially for me, because I'm an editor, I get made fun of I'm an editor, I must not make any grammar mistakes ever. Like, no, I still need an editor too in my stuff. But yeah, you will get crucified for stuff like that, for using the wrong spelling.
I never get critiqued on my spelling when I speak.
No?
Not even. No,
not even a little bit?
No.
I'm so jealous.
I guess there's like how you pronounce things, but for the most, it's a little less or a little more forgiving.
You know those words that you only ever read, and then the first time you say it out loud, you say it wrong, and then everyone makes fun of you. Yeah, I'm really glad that doesn't happen in writing. They can't hear me. The
one thing that's been really nice, or that I really like about writing, as opposed to speaking, is I can erase a paragraph. And when I speak, I cannot.
Nope. It's there forever.
It's out the air. Yeah.
Whereas writing, you can actually go back. And I think that is how you overcome this challenge in writing, is the fact that you can go back and edit your work. And that's why writing a draft and then going back and editing it yourself is important. So don't just write me one draft and then send it to me, guys. This is your lesson. There's a real challenge to converting speaking style to writing style. I'm not even sure I can understand like how to articulate it really well. That actually brings us into our next challenge, which is kind of related to style. It's a voice. Finding your voice when you are writing as opposed to when you're speaking. And when you're speaking, it really comes natural because that's kind of the definition of voice. Literally your voice? It's just how you talk. It's the words you say. Lots of people say certain phrases, like, all the time. Like, we have a friend who constantly comes back at you with your face jokes. You know, like just things like that. You pick up when you know a person. If you're hearing them speak all the time, that's kind of your voice. But when you're writing, I think a big problem that I see is that people are scared to let their voice come into their writing, especially beginning writers. They'll just let their writing be super formal, and they won't let their personal voice come into it. And I want your personal voice in your writing. Especially, like, we're talking about article and blog writing here. If you're talking about news writing, I've also done news writing, and they don't want your voice in it at all. Article writing, blog writing, writing for magazines, you want that voice to come out because it's what will draw people to what you are saying. It'll draw people to keep reading. That's really your goal as a writer. You want to keep people reading to the end of whatever it is that you have to say. So I was never much of a writer growing up. It still surprises me sometimes that I write because I didn't write. I just didn't write. Like, I don't journal. I hate journaling. It's the worst thing I can think of. Wow, I'm really shocked that you write for us then. Sometimes I am too. The first thing I ever actually wrote down was like I had all these thoughts. And I couldn't speak them fast enough, or consistently enough to share them with people I wanted to. So the want to write came out of voice to a certain degree. Sometimes it's hard though to maintain that. I find I don't just like our writing for you is not just a like. Well, I feel like writing something right now, so I'm going to write it. Yeah. You impose like deadlines and. I have deadlines. Rules. Lots of times I do not feel like doing it, but I have to. Yeah. Sometimes that happens. That's a challenge of getting my voice into those articles that I don't want to do. Yeah. Because when it's an article I want to do, I have a lot of fun with it, and I'll often like. I'll put in little jokes, or you'll really be able to tell that it's me writing this thing, and I have to manufacture that when I don't want to do it. And when you are a professional writer, you get really good at doing that. For me, I'm starting to come to saying like, so I've got to get this done. I can't put it off any longer, and this is the thing, whether I like it or not. Yeah. And then going, so what actually. Like, what matters to me?
to try and find something that matters to me. I've read some of the stuff that you've written about topics that I don't care about at all. And I would, in those, I would really, really struggle. So it's nice for me to read those, because I can look at those and go like, this seems super boring and I would not want to talk about this at all, but somehow she's found a way to like make it sound like it's not boring.
Wow, I'm gonna take that as a compliment. Well, most of the places that I write for, I pitch ideas myself.
Right.
So often it is things that I am interested to talk about, even though you might not be interested. So that really helps, I think. Like lots of times I still don't feel like writing it. That's just the nature of any job. Even if it's something that you love, you're gonna not want to do it at certain points. Sometimes a lot of points. Sometimes you learn, and the more you do it, the better you get at projecting your voice into your writing. And like I was saying, I love it when different personalities come out in different people's writings, and that's why we have such an eclectic group of writers at Area of Effect. You will find, if you're a writer looking to write places, that editors will notice when you have a very specific voice, when you're very comfortable with your voice, they can tell. It just makes your writing shine that much more. So, number 5, I want to talk about how good ideas aren't super important when you're a speaker if you can speak well about them.
Oh, yeah.
This is why I don't like getting in debates with people. Because it doesn't matter if I have a better point than they do. If they're a better speaker than I am, they will win.
That's fair.
And so it doesn't matter. I might have the higher ground and have a better point, but I'm not a good public speaker. I'm not good at debating. I'm not good at thinking that fast. That's why I love writing, because I have time to go over what I'm saying and adjust it a little bit and think through the things that I'm saying. I've gotten a little bit better at thinking faster because I'm a co-host on a podcast now, and because I'm doing this YouTube show. I don't even know why. Why am I doing these things? I've gotten a little bit better at it, but it's still a challenge.
There seems to be much less forgiveness.
Yeah.
in that. So I love debating. I'm happy to converse with someone. I've been known to play the devil's advocate on more than one occasion. Not because I even agree with a topic or because the topic is better, but purely for the engagement of just talking about it.
Yeah.
And there has been more than once in my life where I've had differing opinions with someone and worked really hard to get them to agree with me despite their beliefs, solely by using the different ideas, different thoughts, different directions to come at it, until all of a sudden they're agreeing with me and didn't even listen. I love doing that. That's not
fair. That is not fair. I don't
it's not. No, it's not fair at all. I don't disagree with that, but I still love doing it. And speaking lets me do that all the time.
Well, sure.
I can throw different things out. I can say different things, and I can do it on the fly. Like there are times when I've written stuff and just through the course of going through it, I'm like, no, I'm not going to go here. I'm just going to go somewhere different, and I just roll over something or come at it a different way, or and I can just do that, and nobody knows. As far as they know, that's everything I was going to say, anyways. I've also noticed that when I speak, I can like people don't remember everything as well.
Oh, that's true.
So as long as the last thing I say is the best thing, so sometimes I can get away with like, there was something I said before here that's not going to work out really well, but nobody will remember it.
Writing is in stone. Once it's published,
it's
there, and people will pick it apart.
Yeah, I don't get to argue. I can't come at it the same way.
You have to have really good ideas, I think, is for starters.
So one of the ways I've best done it is when I talk to you and say, okay, so here's my idea, and then you come back and say something take that and go, okay, well, this needs to shape this, because I don't get a back and forth in this. I only get out. So I got to think, like, when you say, well, how do you deal with this? Or you simply back, you're like, I don't really understand this. I got to, like, okay, because I don't get to respond like I would in a conversation.
That's a really good way, actually, to overcome this challenge, is talking your pitch over either with someone else or with your editor. If you have a good editor, they will discuss these things with you. Generally, they know what they want for their publication.
Usually.
Usually. Sometimes I don't, but, mostly I do. So don't just write in a vacuum. It's not just about you. You can quote me on that. That's what I'm here for. Like, if you don't use me for that as your editor, that's my job. So let me do my job.
Yeah. Like, I've noticed a change, like a progression in how much feedback I get back, how much more of it's positive, and there's not so much change, or there's not so much like you've missed a whole bunch of stuff here. I'm
definitely asking you less and less for rewrites, which is always a plus. That's where I try to get our writers to. First time writers, often I'll have to work through drafts with them a few times. And they get used to it, and they get used to what I'm looking for. And the best writers will actually look at what I'm saying and apply it the next time. Those are the writers that I will keep around. Those are the writers that most editors will keep around. It's really tempting to just look at your editor's edits, just accept them, not really think about them anymore. When you're a writer, it's really because they've done the work for you. Why bother, looking it over? Yeah. But if you do look it over and say, oh, they changed this for this reason, and then you apply that in your next draft, I will love you, your editors will love you, and they will keep you around.
There's been a few times where you've sent something back and said, like, I need you to change this, or I don't really like this, or I want to move this around. And my initial response has just been like, no, that's stupid. That's not what I want at all. and had to, like, take a couple deep breaths and been like, okay, why? Why would you do this? Why would she do that? There's got to be a good reason. It's not just because she thinks she's better than me.
Yep, there's almost always a reason. And I think in a good editor-writer relationship, there will be a bit of give and take. So if I make a change and you really hate it, and you have a specific logic for not wanting what I changed, then talk to me about it, and I'll probably be fine, because it is your article. And maybe talking it through with me will help you to understand why I changed something the way that I did.
Yeah, I think we've had a few conversations, especially in some earlier articles, to be like, I don't understand this.
Yeah. Especially for beginner writers, you get attached to your work because it's a part of you, it's your words, they're now on paper, and this editor is slicing them apart. And there's just a little bit of you that dies when that happens. And the best writers will not respond right away after they read an editor's edits. They'll actually take a bit of time to digest them. And because when you first see your page marked all in red, there's a little bit of panic that happens. And a little bit of, no, but I thought I did so good, and what's wrong with what I did? And it's not that, I'm trying to make your work be the best that it can possibly be. I'm not trying to, like, tear it apart and make it something different.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it better, and I'm trying to make it shine. And if you understand that and have a good relationship with your editor, I think that's a really good way of overcoming that challenge, as difficult as it is.
One I remember coming back where I'd written something and I was like, this is really good. I'm really happy about this. You came back and you're like, so I really appreciate, like, you've really spoken well as a pastor here. But that's not really what we're looking for.
Oh no.
I had to be like, what do you mean? And then, like, stopped and thought of it, like, so it wasn't that you said it was bad. I didn't write anything bad. I didn't hit, like, the main purpose that you were going for.
Yep, that's the majority of my my line edits or my editing of your content as opposed to just copy editing, is adjusting it for our audience. So that kind of links back to our previous discussion about audience. Since we've come full circle, I think that's a good place to end this episode. Thank you so much for joining me, Dustin.
No problem, anytime.
If you have any responses to anything we've said, talk to us in the comments. I'm sure both Dustin and I are happy to talk to you about anything you want. If you have any specific topics on writing lessons that you want us to cover, let me know that as well. I'm happy to do whatever you guys want me to talk about.